Hello, Lou Hamilton from Audible Elegance here in Cincinnati, Ohio. We are located on Montgomery Road, a couple doors north of the original Montgomery Inn and across the street from Montgomery Cyclery. We have a website, www.audibleelegance.com, and I write a monthly blog. We also have an orphanage where we sell used equipment or models that are being discontinued. And so you never know what shows up there, so keep an eye on it. We list it there. Some of the items end up on eBay, but not all. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I think kind of fortunately ultimately, I keep my eyes out for used turntables, and a lot of you just enjoyed what to look for in a used turntable and what can happen. And this is a kind of a combination of being fortuitous, but what can happen. This particular table was made available on Facebook Marketplace, and from the photography, which included a box, which made it shippable, I could see that the serial number of the turntable was in the 90,000s, which would have meant it was a real recent turntable without need for much upgrades and really a nice deck to have. And the price was most acceptable. It included an ETOC tone arm, but I didn't have a clear picture of the back side of it. And he was kind enough, a really nice gentleman, not too experienced with Linn's. He brought it up to me from Tennessee, and thank you very much, Tom. I've had to do some work on her. But one of the first things I discovered when I took the bottom panel off is that I was not dealing with a Linn turntable in the 90,000 series. In fact, this was a turntable produced probably about 1985 to 1986, 84. This is when I first became a Linn dealer. And it has been upgraded with the Circus bearing, so it had that. But a number of things showed up very quickly that told me that this was not a 90,000 series turntable. And one of the first things that I noticed, if we go in through the bottom side, is going over onto the power supply, the diode and resistor mod, rather than being on the board itself, is in fact the little addition that we made sticking out to the end here. So hopefully you can see it. The other thing that was different was here in regulation. So this is an older board. The board is actually labeled 1984. So these are original caps, so we're going to run into the probability that these are going to have to be replaced. Okay. So that told me a lot right away of what I was dealing with, along with the serial number. She's missing the screws, flanking the bolts, both front and back. That was something that was added to the design. It does have the corner braces. Thankful for that. Amazingly, this is a very quiet motor. It still has the bearing cap, and we don't have the washing machine sound. So I'm not dealing with a newer table. The amazing thing about it is he brought it up in the box, and he didn't have the bearing wheel cap, so the oil went all over the place. But in fact, I have the oil, but the bearing itself was probably one of the finest conditioned bearings I've ever seen on a Linn. And absolutely from this age. So I was absolutely delighted about that. So they did the upgrade and really didn't do much beyond that. As can be seen here on the top plate, wherever it was kept was fairly moist, because you can see one of the tilt screws is actually started to rust. Okay. Doesn't affect performance, but it does affect aesthetics. The ETOC tone arm is certainly an older one, and I'm kind of delighted about this one because this is known as the split weight. This allowed you to use different weight cartridges than the standard counterweight that came common on ETOC tone arms later on. It is performing in spec, and so we're very happy about that. And the VTA is proper for a Linn K18 Mark II. I love the K18s. The Mark II has proven to be equally beautiful. Aluminum body. We have a bolt on the front of it to keep everything tight. And so what I'm going to do is just a little final touch-up. The bounce on this table, once I replaced the grommets, what turned out to be probably one of the finest that I've had. We certainly, in terms of the price I paid for it, we didn't get the bargain we thought I was going to get. But I'm going to make good of this table. So one of the first things I'm going to do is go in underneath and check the tightness of the tone arm base. I'm going to check the top plate screws that I can, and they are quite excellent. I'm going to come around to get that back one. I'm not going to try to reach over the turntable. All right, a little snug. Now, one of the things I didn't address, because I would have to take the whole table apart, is something that's very common on the top plates of this vintage, which is this corner creeping up. Linn eventually actually added a bolt system to keep that from happening. The only way of doing it is taking everything apart and bending the top plate so it bows down a little bit. But here you can see that it in fact does deflect a little. You can see it bounce up and down. So the only way of really addressing that perfectly is to rebend that top plate so that it snugs down. I just don't feel like tearing this whole table to smithereens. I'm going to sell it as a used table if I don't keep it myself. And so there we are on that. So let me get one of my small screwdrivers. I'll be back and I'll check the arm board screws. So holding the arm board stable, I'm going to go in underneath and check the snugness of each of these screws. A little bit there, not much. So the arm collar was tight. The arm board screws just ever so slightly loose. So everything was done fairly well. I did run into, you can see here, moisture playing its havoc. I actually had to sand both this inner mating surface as well as the mating surface on the outer platter was actually pitted. And so these are the sort of things that even an experienced person can run into when buying a used deck. Fortunately, I know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and made the decision to honor the price I offered. The gentleman was very kind enough to bring it up. He did not have all of the necessary material to ship it, and the box and packing material he had actually did not accommodate the tone arm itself. So the probability of this being destroyed in transit was probably about 70% if he had tried to ship it. Not to mention, had there been oil in the bearing oil, he wanted to put tape over it. And more than likely, that lubrication would have caused the tape to come loose, and then the oil would have been all over everything. So these are the things that when you're looking at a used table, ideally, you get to look at it before you buy it. I did, but I honored his commitment. He did drive up from Tennessee, and I'm very thankful for that, because I doubt the table would have properly survived, even with factory packing, because he didn't have all of the pieces, nor did it accommodate the tone arm. And I really find it hard to believe that people are willing to mail order used turntables. I guess sometimes it works out well, but I've seen some real horror stories. I've had to deal with them, and Lord, I don't know what to say. I mean, I saw a beautiful Oracle turntable absolutely demolished. Everything about it, the arm pillars were all bent, and the tone arm was bent, and amazingly, the very expensive cartridge that was shipped on it survived. There are miracles in this world, and that was definitely one of them. So this is just another example of what, if you start getting into high-end tables and you start buying the pig in the poke, so to speak, what you can run into. And fortunately, I have the parts and the skill to take care of it all, but a lot of people don't, so there we are. Thank you again for watching the channel. Please do subscribe if you can, and tell others about our work.